making it a point of having us here today. A great opportunity, and certainly interesting to hear these other people's journeys and what's gone on. A little bit of background on what project we're involved with, and it's the Gordie Howe International Bridge between Detroit and Windsor, the most important cross-border for all of the things that go on between the United States and Canada. More than 25% of the trade between the two countries crosses this bridge, in excess of 7,000 commercial vehicles a day. And the existing bridge has been around since, about 1930. So it's getting up to about 90 years old, and it's in very, very poor shape, and it's owned by a private investor. If anybody can imagine a cross-border crossing having that effect, it's really been very, very hard on the community, how that part of it has gone. So about 18 years ago, the federal government determined, hey, this isn't the way it should be. If we're going to have something that important, it should be owned by Canada and the United States, and we're going to start on this project. So 18 years later, we finally get to the point where the Prime Minister comes down and makes the announcement 2 weeks ago. The project's going ahead. It's $5.7 billion. And out of it, there was a requirement on by the federal government that there would be community benefits that would be a part of this project. It's pretty unique because Canada is funding the total cost of this bridge project. The state of Michigan was in dire financial straits back in 2010, didn't have any money. If the project was going to move ahead, we had to find a way to do it, and the federal government committed all the funds that are going to be on this project. So that's pretty unique. We really were kind of not aware very well in the community of this whole concept of community benefits. You know, community benefits before were usually one of these things that municipalities would give developers some kind of permission to violate codes or whatever it was if they build a park or if they contribute to something like that. They weren't a really mandated positive type of what was going to happen. So last summer, we were exceptionally thankful, and I can't say enough good words, to the Atkinson Foundation, to Colette Murphy and Jen Miller, and certainly to Alexandra Bravo from the Broadbent Institute for coming down and activating, motivating, and inspiring our community to get involved and get on this bandwagon in a very, very short period of time. So we had about 3 months in order to put our whole board together, and we have 25 people on the board, and it's made up of community organizations such as the United Way, the Labor Council, Workforce, Windsor Essex, institutions such as St. Clair College, Hotel Dieu Hospital, the Port of Windsor, and residents on an equal basis, because it was really important that residents have a say in how this is going to affect them and their lives and the things that they wanted to see that would be positive coming out of it. So this was a little bit of it. Part of the education concerns that we've had is people aren't really aware of the potential of community benefits and how great they can possibly be. So we were very, very fortunate to have Lorraine Goddard, who's the CEO of the United Way in Windsor, has really, really enthusiastic about making this part of it happen. And the United Way provided us with so much support. It's been absolutely tremendous. So we started in the summer of 2017. We had a very, very intense 8-week period where we really went out and tried to get the feel from the community about the effects that were going to happen by having this massive project. It's going to be 6 years in total. There's going to be construction. There's going to be disruptions to businesses and all of these types of things, such as happened in the Crosslinks project and is happening right now. So in that time period, we hosted 32 different events. We did 158 door-to-door surveys. We had 900 plus ideas that came from these community events. And out of that whole group that we had attracted and worked with, there were 52 self-identified as representing 52 groups, organizations, or governing bodies from our community. So we did a very, very intense and very critical survey of the community that we thought was most important in what was going to happen. So in total, we had 643 different inputs, whether they happened to be through these meetings, online surveys, and whatever else. Out of that, we had a total of 900 ideas that people brought forward as things they would like to see happening. So you got to kind of get this effect of what we were trying to do in such an intense part of short period of time. It was absolutely incredible. And we were so lucky to have such a great committee that was able to work together so well and attend so many of these sessions. It was absolutely incredible. So as November 1st approached, all of a sudden the Bridge Authority said, oh, we're going to extend the period for another month. So, wow, it was just like going on vacation. It was incredible. And but we put our 17-page report together, and we identified five pillars that we could take these, all of these ideas and fold them into at some point. So the very first one was a revitalization of Sandwich Town, which is the community where the bridge is going to land on the Canadian side. The second thing was environmental concerns, whether it was during construction, after construction, during the life. They're claiming the bridge is going to be there for 125 years. I don't know who's got that crystal ball, but that's pretty incredible. One of the other major points was educational and job opportunities during construction and after construction. So working in conjunction with the university, with the community college, and actually the high school level, how can we get kids out there? How can we get apprentices out there? How can we get these people involved in any way, manner, shape, or form that's going to be better for the community? The fourth item that we put on as one of our pillars was gateways. We wanted the gateways to be very representative of the community and of the region, because this whole thing that we're talking about is Windsor, Essex. So we're just not talking about the city of Windsor and the site where the bridge is going to land. These are effects that we want to see happening all through the community. We want to see welcoming signs in multiple languages, because we're dealing with a lot of Spanish-speaking people in Detroit, and certainly with French, we want to have that here and for our side too. And the last title that we put on it was mobility and safety. So because of this, what's going to be happening with this bridge, there's all kinds of issues with how people are going to move around, how it's going to affect them during construction, and what the final thing is going to look like as far as being able to access the bridge and access the community. We don't want the bridge to be a dividing line like, like the Gardner Expressway, where it separates community and that type of stuff. We want the bridge to be an integral part of what's going to happen. What we felt was really a strong part of our proposal. And so we didn't prioritize any of these. We just gave this report to the Bridge Authority. They passed it on to 3 different proponents, and they asked them to come back with their report. So that was in the very first part of December. And they basically said to us, well, go sit at home. Thanks for the work you've done, and we'll talk to you at the end of September. Well, we weren't prepared to do that, so we advocated frequently during the course of the winter with the group, and we said, we want to be there. We want to be a part of the solution. We want to be a part of the ongoing, not necessarily the management, but certainly have some kind of oversight to make sure that whatever community developments come out of this thing, we want to make sure that they're followed through on and that the developer does it. So we were very lucky when they chose the final proponent back in May that it was a group called Bridging North America, and there's 2 of the major firms involved in it have been involved in the Crosslinks project here in Toronto. So they're quite familiar, and anybody that's gone and seen what the community benefits are there, we know that these groups have an understanding of the types of things that they can deliver and how they should deliver them. So as we got to that point in time, we're going, there's some other major infrastructure projects coming in Windsor. There's going to be a new hospital. And now in the middle of all this, the federal government has given the private owner the capacity to build new links and new crossings at his site. So how that's going to reflect back on this whole thing is nobody's really certain what's going to happen. So in the start of the year, we said probably one of the strongest things we can do with regards to this is form some kind of binational committee with Southwest Detroit Community Benefits Group. Now, they've been at this for 10 years, and we have a tremendous amount to learn from them. One of the really unique things that happened with them, the site where it lands in Detroit is massive site, 160 acres, and they've cleared it. It looks like a war zone over there. At one point, there were 30,000 residents there in its heyday. Now it's down to about 2,000 people live in the neighborhood. So the city of Detroit sold land to the Bridge Authority for $55 million, and the city of Detroit turned it over to their community benefits organization. What a tremendous, tremendous thing that was to start this whole thing off. So they used $32 million of that to relocate people whose homes were being destroyed in that, and they moved them out to other areas in the city of Detroit, provided them with funds to move and things like that. It was tremendous. They provided $10 million for training and education, for job apprenticeships, for jobs during construction, for jobs during the operation and that type of thing. And several $million were devoted to some healthcare initiatives that are unique to that neighborhood. So what we promoted back to the Atkinson Foundation was this unique opportunity to have a binational coalition working together. And Atkinson found and was able to support the Windsor operation to enable us to hire a full-time employee to really help us as we go through these next 18 months, well beyond the Bridge one and into the other community benefit types of opportunities that are going to exist here. So once again, tremendous thanks to them and what they've seen and what their vision has been to help us move forward and to create a model for community benefits in these types of situations. So certainly one of the biggest things that we've tried to do is educate our community. You know, what are community benefits? It's a very, 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 very broad type of situation. And what the eventual model is going to look like, we're not really sure. So 2 weeks ago, the Bridge Authority came out with a 25-page report saying, hey, these are your community benefits. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do things equally in both countries. We're going to give you $20 million for, yeah, that's pretty incredible. We were pretty excited. People in Detroit, not quite as excited because it's in Canadian funds. So to them, it's only $7 million, unfortunately. But on top of that, they're going to do a bunch of different initiatives that involve the community. So one of the main streets in Old Sandwich Town that's going to be certainly adversely affected by the truck traffic and that type of stuff, that's going to be beyond this project. And that's an additional $12 million. They're going to be putting in a walkway and a bicycle access lane across the bridge. There's going to be 6 lanes of traffic, and there's going to be another 12-foot lane for bicycles and pedestrians. Remarkable opportunity. And they're going to tie into existing trails and walkways in the 2 communities. This is all above and beyond the $20 million that I just spoke of. So they've taken the environmental concerns and they've created buffer zones. They're creating unique plantings of local trees and grasses and that type of thing. So they've addressed a lot of the environmental concerns that we had and how they're going to mitigate the effects that major project like this, either during its construction or during its operation. They've created a special $5 million fund for anything that they didn't see happening and that will be affecting down the road. So we're hoping that we're going to try and leverage that into being the legacy fund that we talked about, because we think that's a very important part of this thing moving ahead. I guess that's pretty close to where we are right now. The other thing that we did manage to get out of them is that they are going to have a community group that's going to be meeting on a quarterly basis and that's going to have input and oversight to what the future and the final development of the community benefits are going to be. So we're at a very, very exciting time, and it's great to have the support of everybody around us. It's been so wonderful to us.
This is great.
Thank you.